Hello, everybody, and welcome to this BSI and Darktrace webinar. Two standards, one strategy: unlocking value with ISO 27001 and ISO 42001. My name is Andy Gaskell, and I'm the global marketing lead for AI at BSI, and I will be your host for today. And I'm joined by my fantastic colleagues from both BSI and Darktrace, who I will introduce in a minute. Just kind of before we get there, a little bit of housekeeping. So the webinar will cover a few different things. We will get stuck into what ISO 27001 is and what 42001 is, how they both work together, how they're different, how they compare, and the overlaps. We'll also be looking at how these two standards can be integrated into your organization and the benefits of doing this. And we're also delighted to be joined by Darktrace today, who have integrated both standards with the auditing done by BSI, and they will share a client perspective on embedding both of these standards. There will be a Q&A at the end of the webinar, so please add your questions to the chat. You'll see a question mark on your on your dashboard, and any questions that you put in there we'll receive, and we will try and get through as many as possible at the end. So please add as you go, but we will address those at the end. And you will get a copy of the slides and a recording of the webinar at the end. We typically distribute this around 24 to 48 hours afterwards, so just keep an eye on your inbox, and feel free to take as many notes as you like, but just be aware you'll get a copy of the slides as well, so that may help you. Finally, we have a feedback form at the end of the webinar, as I guess any good webinar does, where we're kind of interested in your experience. We also ask if there's any topics that you'd like to see us kind of cover up in the future at BSI. You know, we run the webinars for the benefit of the people joining and want to make sure as relevant as possible. So if you've got ideas about kind of anything in the AI sphere that you'd like to see us cover, please just drop it in there. And also, if you'd like to talk to any of us at BSI about 27001 or 42001 or your kind of AI roadmap and testing certification, we're more than happy to talk about it as well. So there's an opportunity to ask for follow-up if you want it. Just before I move on, you may have noticed on the right-hand side there's a QR code. And what we've done ahead of this webinar is we've produced an infographic about the differences between 27001 and 42001, and kind of essentially kind of myth busting the two standards. That's available on the QR code. So if you want to take a scan of it, you're able to access it. We'll also flash up the QR code at the end, so don't worry if you run out of time, and you will get it in a follow-up email as well. But we hope it's a really useful resource, and it's free and it's yours to use, and we hope it helps you on your AI and digital trust journey. Next slide, please. So that's the housekeeping done. The next thing to do is to introduce our speakers. So from the BSI side of things, I'm delighted to be joined by Fran and Vindhya. Fran and Vindhya are two of our AI client managers, and they are both responsible for auditing companies to ISO 42001. Vindhya was actually responsible for auditing Darktrace, so it's interesting to get a perspective from the BSI side. Moving across to Darktrace, we got William and Shanita. Both Darktrace, as I mentioned, have embedded both 27001 and 42001, and are a really well-known cybersecurity company. I recognised them from the back of the McLaren F1 car, so that's kind of where I first came across them. But we're delighted to have them on board, as they will be sharing kind of their journey into how they're embedding both standards and where they're benefiting from them. So we're hoping through this webinar we can give an overview of kind of what standards are all about through BSI, and then kind of the practical implications of embedding them through Darktrace from a client perspective. So that's a little bit about speakers. What I'll do just before kind of handing over is we got a couple of kind of audience warm-up questions, just to get a gauge as to where people are on the journey and the motivations for joining the webinar. So we got three kind of quick poll questions. We appreciate your input into it. So the first one, just kind of the standards we're talking about, which ones do you currently have? And I'll give 10 seconds for this question to be answered. Okay, a couple more seconds. And done. Okay, so we can see from this, we've got 42% have mentioned that they've got 27,001, 3% with 42,001, 3% with both, and 53% with none. So that just really helps our speakers to understand where our people that have joined on the journey are. Our next question. We'll give 10 seconds to answer this. Okay, a couple more seconds. Okay, so interestingly, we've got kind of two joint high scorers here in terms of priority areas for the business, establishing responsible AI governance and integrating AI risk into existing governance frameworks. We'll be talking about this through the webinar, so it's great to understand where you are on that journey. And our final question, please. Again, 10 seconds for any answers. Couple more seconds. Okay, so fairly widespread. 95% have some kind of AI initiatives. So only 5% answering none. 35% at early stages, and 33% defined across the business. 28% said they're experimenting with AI. So it's good to see that there's looked at it kind of all across the businesses, and yeah, really helpful for the answers. Without further ado, I'll pass across to Fran, who will lead the presentation from BSI's perspective. Please remember that you can add a question to the chat at any point during the webinar, so please kind of keep them coming. I like to keep our presenters busy, and we will get through as many as we can at the end of the webinar. So over to you, Fran.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are joining us from today. Welcome to this BSI webinar. Let's go straight to the point. Why are you spending 1 hour of your time with BSI today? Because you want to know how to use your current information security system to build a trusted AI strategy. You need a strategy that supports business growth, protects your investment, and is fully ready for new regional and global laws. As you can see on the screen, we call this concept the resilient architecture. Next, please. Today, we will explore how to connect ISO 27001 and ISO 42001. Our goal is to show you how to prepare your business for the future, ensuring your digital transition is clean, safe, and efficient. Next slide, please. You will get 3 main benefits from this webinar today. First, absolute clarity on how AI governance fits into your security team without creating extra friction. Second, a practical roadmap to build real trust in your AI systems. And third, a clear understanding on the difference between 3 words we use every day: governance, compliance, and certification. To build this architecture, we must align these definitions. Think of it like driving a car. Governance is how you drive safely, look at the mirrors, and make good decisions on the road. Compliance is following the external speed limits and driving regulations. And certification is your official driving license, the independent proof that you know how to drive. Today, we will see how to manage all 3 without doubling your daily work. Next slide, please. So, to start, let's see where you are today in your AI journey. In your company, who is responsible for AI governance and information security? Separate teams or the same team? You can see the votes coming in. Okay. We're still voting. Okay, so results are interesting. We can see that mostly you are working in silos, although some companies are already working with a unified team. This is very common, but it usually creates internal silos. Now, let's see how to connect them in the next slide, please. Why do we need to talk about this right now and at this exact moment? Because the market has changed completely. We have a lot of pressure from the EU AI Act timelines. Also, your customers want to know if they can really trust your products. And regulators are looking very closely at how companies use data and train AI models. Doing nothing is not a valid business option anymore. The cost of inaction is too high. You risk reputational damage and losing market share. This webinar is about protecting your business and using good governance to stand out from your competitors. If you move now, you win the market. Next slide, please. To build this architecture, we must understand our two main pillars. On one hand, we have ISO 27001, your Information Security Management System, or ISMS, the foundation. It is your corporate shield. It protects the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your data. But here is the problem. A database can be completely secure and encrypted, while the AI inside is making bad, incorrect, or unfair decisions. For that reason, we have ISO 42001, the Artificial Intelligence Management System, or AIMS, the framework. It is your compass. It governs the entire AI lifecycle to ensure ethics, transparency, and clear accountability. The biggest challenge today is fragmentation, having two different teams working apart. Next slide, please. The question we normally have at BSI is, do we need one or both standards? It depends on what your company does. If your business only stores and protects data, ISO 27000 is enough. It ensures your car is safe to drive. But if your business builds proprietary models, uses open source algorithms, or deploys AI that makes choices or talks to customers, you need both. ISO 42001 gives you the internal governance layer. It ensures you drive that car responsibly, avoiding algorithmic bias or model errors. Using both means you protect your data and your reputation at the same time. Next slide, please. Now the question, how do these two standards fit under one single management system? The answer is simple. They share the same corporate DNA. They use the exact same high-level structure of ISO, which is called the harmonized structure. This means that the core clauses of both standards speak the exact same language. Let's look at three main examples. First, Clause 5, leadership. Both standards require your top management to show commitment. Under ISO 27001, leadership ensures information security policies are active. Under ISO 42001, leadership does the exact same thing but adds a focus on AI ethics and responsible use. Second, Clause 6, planning. This is where you manage risk and opportunities. Instead of running two separate risk assessment frameworks, one for information risk, one for AI risks, you can merge them. Third, Clause 9, performance evaluation. Both standards demand internal audits and management reviews. Your team can audit your security controls and your AI lifecycle at the exact same time. This way, you are not creating a new management system from scratch. You are using the same engine to do two different jobs. This saves a lot of time, internal resources, and paperwork. Next slide, please. Now, let's move from theory to action. How do we implement this architecture? It's a practical three-step process. Step 1, the gap analysis. You start with what you already have. You review your current ISO 27001 system and compare it with the requirements of ISO 42001. You will quickly discover that many existing controls already provide a solid base. For example, your current process for supplier management can easily be updated to evaluate third-party AI vendors. This way, you don't start from zero. Step 2, risk management integration. You combine your risk assessment workflows. You bring your information security experts and your AI developers into the same room. Together, they look at both sides of the coin, how to protect the data and how to make sure the AI model is making accurate and fair choices. One integrated team means zero operational silos. Step 3. Updating the statement of applicability. In ISO 27001, you have Annex A with security controls. In ISO 42001, you also have an Annex A with specific AI controls like data validation and system logging. You update your documentation to include both sets of controls under one single management system strategy. Next slide, please. However, when implementing this integrated system, you must avoid three common mistakes we see at BSI. First, scope ambiguity. This happens when a company does not define exactly where the AI starts and where it ends. For example, are you governing the entire AI model you built, or just a small third-party API tool that your marketing team uses? If your scope is not 100% clear, your governance and your audit will fail. Second, the metric disconnect. You cannot use standard IT goals to measure AI performance. You need specific metrics to measure model drift, algorithmic fairness, and data accuracy. If your metrics are wrong, your risk management is blind. Finally, framework misalignment. This is the copy-paste trap. Many companies download generic AI policies from the internet just to pass an audit. But your framework must fit your actual day-to-day work. If you build AI, your policy must look different than if you just buy AI tools. Avoiding these three gaps is what separates a company that just has a certificate hanging on the wall from a truly resilient company. And this requires mature processes at the right and the right technology. At BSI, we see that companies who succeed are those who design their framework around their actual operations. Our guest speakers from Darktrace are a perfect example of this. They have integrated these requirements into their complex AI environments successfully. We will hear their practical journey in a few minutes, but first, I want to hear from you. Next slide, please. Based on the information provided so far, what is your biggest concern here? Cost or complexity? You can see the results are coming in. Okay. A couple of more seconds. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the results are very interesting. Complexity is winning by a big margin. So let's address how to solve both. Integration is the real answer to both concerns. By updating your statement of applicability and reusing your current ISO 27001 documentation, you can reduce complexity and optimize internal cost. It's about being efficient and maximizing your existing investments. So, what is the definitive path to becoming a future-ready organization? As you can see on the slide, it's a three-step journey. First, start with what you have. Use your mature ISO 27000 system as your launchpad. Remember, the foundation. Second, build the AI layer with BSI. We help you bridge the gap between security and ethics with a clear, proven methodology, the framework. And finally, lead your industry. In a market full of doubts about AI safety, being a certified, trusted provider is your biggest commercial advantage. This is how you change compliance into a real business engine. And speaking about compliance, we cannot conclude without addressing the biggest topic in the market today, the EU AI Act. Next slide, please. So let's test the market reality. Here is our final poll. In your opinion, does ISO 42001 guarantee legal compliance with the EU AI Act or not? Okay. Okay, so we have the results. Yeah, mostly of you have said no, and this is actually the true answer. And this is a critical distinction to understand. Let's explain this connection clearly. ISO 42001 is your engine. It's a voluntary global management system. The AI Act is your license to operate and sell in Europe. The standard is voluntary, but the law is completely mandatory. However, ISO 42000 covers about 80% of what the law demands, like risk management, data quality, and documentation systems. Implementing the ISO standard today means you are building the technical evidence you will legally need for the law tomorrow. It is your best insurance policy. And here is where governance, compliance, and certification meet. The EU AI Act is compliant. It is the law and it is mandatory. ISO 42001 is governance. It is the voluntary tool you use to manage your AI risks. And the BSI certificate is certification, the proof for your customers. Use the ISO framework for your internal governance to generate the technical evidence you need for legal compliance so you can achieve certification. One strategy, 3 clear steps. Next slide, please. In conclusion, this approach is about 3 main pillars: driving growth, building trust, and ensuring regulatory readiness. By combining these 2 standards, you protect your business core, you win customer trust because your AI is ethical, and you can save up to 40% in administrative work by eliminating double processes. Global regulatory scrutiny is rising every month, but with this framework, your organization is already ahead of the curve. At BSI, we have the global expertise and the auditors ready to help you on this journey. Thank you very much for your time and your attention today. Now, to see how this works in the real world, I'm very happy to introduce our clients, William Booth and Shanita Sojan from Dartrace. They will share their practical journey and how they use AI system under this exact framework.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Fran. So we are joining from Dartrace. We've been very excited to be invited by BSI. We obviously have the 2 standards in place with BSI, and it's been a really, really key milestone for us for 2001. So we wanted to sort of share our journey. So just before we start, a little bit about Dartrace. So we were founded in 2013 in Cambridge by mathematicians from the University of Cambridge. We sort of saw a gap in the market for sort of AI-driven cybersecurity platforms. You know, we sort of saw all these tools relying on historical data and signatures. There's definitely a gap to sort of learn about how a business operates normally and how we can sort of detect the unknown. If you think about the human immune system, it's sort of that type of model. So we have sort of built our self-learning AI that really understands your business. We've sort of taken our products from just sort of NDR, network detection response, all the way through to sort of email, identity cloud, and now sort of secure AI. With that, we really sort of operate in that intersection between AI and cybersecurity. You know, now we're seeing a lot of companies claiming AI when they're not quite. We like to say that we were there sort of before the hype. So we first certified with BSI to 27001 back in March 2017. So it was a very long journey. We were driven by sort of growing maturity in the business. Our product capability was growing, our organizational structure was growing. And with that, we wanted to sort of make sure that A, we can meet our client demands, and B, we can sort of really make sure our internal processes are scaling with the business as it grows. As our cloud product grew as well and our cloud capability, we thought to add on 27018, which is the protection of PII in public cloud environments, making sure that sort of privacy element was also covered off. Now, if we fast forward to 2014, the new standard had just been announced, and we'll talk about that shortly. For us, it made complete sense. You know, we had covered off the cybersecurity element. We hadn't quite covered off AI regulatory requirements and governance. So we sort of immediately spoke to BSI about, you know, this is a new standard. Are you able to support us here? And BSI were really brilliant, and we sort of got up and running quite quickly and really get ahead of the curve. So why did we choose to be an early adopter? So for us, it was trying to get there ahead of external pressure. We knew our clients were going to be asking about this. We knew this is sort of the way in which the environment is going. So for us, we wanted to make sure we had answers to those questions, and 42001 was brilliant for that. As I say, we had 27001 to speak to our security, but we needed that sort of assurance, that independent assurance, and 42001 brought that. So our customers have been really, really happy with us so far having this standard. We had to do a little bit of sort of contextualizing what it means, sort of laying this out now, and we've really seen a shift. Now it means we've got answers to all those questions. It also meant our products as well. We could rubber stamp our products and say, we are happy that each of our AI systems and the products that our customers are being delivered, they are governed appropriately. We're managing the security aspects, but also the system delivery, the outputs of the product. All of that is done responsibly, which sort of really aligns to our core objectives in our aims. Also, the EU AI Act, we knew that was coming. That was going to be a big shift for all sort of AI providers. For us, we wanted to make sure that we were ahead of the curve. As we saw in the poll there, it doesn't mean that you're automatically compliant, but it does mean it's your first rung on the ladder. It's your first step into compliance. And for us, it's been so valuable in making sure we're ready for that. But I'll let Shanita talk on that more. And then finally, we wanted to sort of, get ahead of our competitors. We hadn't seen many people talking about 42001 at the time we were. We wanted to sort of make sure we were setting the benchmark. Darktrace works with the UK government on sort of AI regulatory policy and awareness. We had really valuable insights from 42001 and setting up our aims that we could use, and we shared with the UK government. We shared to help sort of drive an AI culture in the UK, and we have that ongoing relationship, and 42001 has proven to be valuable time and time again. And now I'll hand over to Shanita to talk about what we actually do in terms of 42001 and 27001 at Darktrace.
So what ISO 42000 governs at Darktrace? So, it governs our responsible development and use of AI within Darktrace, our AI-eval use cases and our products. So it covers the entire AI lifecycle, that is build, test, deploy, monitor, and retirement. And it formalized governance around data, risk, and decision-making, AI decision-making. So 2 quick examples to see what it means in practice. So let's say when we change an AI system, what happens is now it goes through AI impact assessments covering data quality, bias, risk, and customer impact before it's actually deployed into production. And for Gen AI agents, I would say we have clear operational boundaries, what data they can access, what actions they can take, and how their outputs are controlled and monitored. Next slide, please. So how ISO 42001 and 27001 work together for Darktrace? So we didn't build ISO 42000 from scratch. We built it on top of our existing ISO 27001 and ISO 27018 framework. So both standards share the same core principles: a risk-based approach, continuous improvement, governance, and accountability. So where possible, we integrated AI governance into existing processes. So if I take an example, let's say for AI suppliers that's used within the organization, we rolled it into the existing TPRM due diligence process, but now with AI impact assessments and governance checks. At the same time, for Darktrace developed AI systems, we introduced data management, testing, evaluation, validation, impact assessments, performance evaluation, control monitoring. But note that all of this actually existed, but then 42001 gave us the platform and the opportunity to formalize it. So the result is one connected governance framework with shared foundations, but additional controls where AI requires them. Next slide, please. So moving into why certification puts us ahead of regulatory requirements. ISO 42001 does not mean that it's full compliance with EU AI Act or NIST AI risk management framework, but is a strong starting point towards both of it. So it gives organizations structure early, so you're not scrambling when regulation fully lands. It also reduces long-term costs because you avoid retrofitting governance under pressure. It is already becoming a commercial requirement. We see a lot of customers prioritizing vendors with strong AI governance, and we see it create a competitive advantage as well. So faster trust, fewer barriers in due diligence. Next slide, please. So I'm going to quickly go through 3 myths about ISO 42001. So the first myth is just ISO 27000 for AI. Well, it isn't. So ISO 27001 protects systems and data. ISO 42001 governs responsible development and use of AI systems, including data provenance, impact assessment, model risk. So both standards they addresses different risks and both are needed. So that is why they work so well together. Second myth, it's only for AI labs or model providers. Well, it applies anywhere your AI influences outcomes. So that could be security detections, fraud detections, customer decisions, or your day-to-day operations. Third myth, it is just a documentation exercise. Well, of course, it's a operational evidence and rigorous governance throughout your AI lifecycle. So this was evaluated for us over 13 and a half days by BSI during a stage 2 audit. So definitely not a theoretical process, but controls are tested across real AI systems. So with that foundations in place, I'll hand over to Will to walk through the practical benefits the standard has delivered for us.
Thank you, Shanita. Yeah, so just to sort of recap for us, it's been brilliant. 40001 has helped us so many times and continues to be this sort of real driving factor in the business. It's not just compliance for the sake of it. So, we've had greater control over AI systems. We have this whole development process, building our AI systems and our products with sort of a foundation of governance and compliance. But for this has really set strong, repeatable frameworks and processes and assessments for AI systems. It means that we can sort of track controls over data, the models we use, and our AI deployment, both from product side, but also from any sort of Gen AI and AI agents across the business. So we were sort of covering both ends. It's been really good for us. We also strengthened our overall security program, actually. As Janik said, it's not a security standard, 40001, but because there's that shared ISO framework, it really gave us an opportunity to build up our 27001 at the same time. We took it from strength to an even better place. And now it's sort of those systems work in complete harmony. And now they are sort of continually improving at a really impressive rate for us. We've been really, really impressed to see that with the business. Best practice embedded is, it sets out some really, really strong recommendation and guidance, 40001. We can then sort of build on top of that with our existing process, but also looking outside of 40001, looking at regulatory requirements, looking at additional frameworks. But 40001 sits at the very, very heart of that. It's really helped mature those processes. And then finally, we had very shortly after we certified, we actually had 2 clients skip straight from the RFP process straight to our POV. So we skipped out all of that lengthy due diligence and that RFI process, meaning we could go straight to POV and trialing Darktrace as a product, just merely on the fact that we had 40001. They're so impressed to see that. And we've seen this time and time again. Anecdotally, I've seen a change from due diligence and questionnaires being purely about security, now being about AI as well. We've got answers now with 40001 to say, look, here you go, here's our certificate, you can trust us and you can believe in us. And our clients are really, really happy to see that. So 40001 has been so brilliant for that. And now we're covering both ends with 27000 as well. So that's Darktrace experience. As I say, we worked with BSI on this. We've been extremely happy with how this supported us. Their regulatory services have really come along, and sort of the expertise they have has been brilliant for us as well. So with that, thank you very much to BSI, and I'll hand back to Andrew for Q&A.
Thank you to everybody that's spoke so far. So I've had a fair range of questions that have come in the chat, and we've got lots of time for Q&A actually. So if anyone wants to ask any more, please put them in the chat and we'll get through as many as possible. So the first one across, I think this will be for Fran and Vindia. How does integrating these 2 standards actually save us money?
Thank you, Andrew. So basically, things that you are not starting from scratch. You are building just one management system engine. In this case, would be the ISO 27001. As explained in the presentation, most of the process overlap. So it could be a matter of just adjusting those specific processes to the requirements of AI management system. That way, you are not starting from zero, and that would save, of course, overlapping processes and paperwork.
Okay, thank you. And I've got one saying, I've already got 27001. Can we wait until next year to start with ISO 42001?
Okay, so technically, of course, yes, you can wait. There is no legal push for becoming ISO 42001. The reality is that, as Dark-Trace explained, building an AI governance takes months, a lot of time. So the earlier you start, the sooner you can be certified and be ready for future upcoming regulatory requirements.
Okay. The next one I have got on my list here is you have talked a lot about having a single state of applicability for 27001 and 42001. How is that possible from an auditor's view? I'm not sure they will accept as per my experience.
Yeah, I can take this, Andy. So basically, the motive was not having a single statement of applicability for both the ISO 27001 and ISO 42001. Rather, the focus should be on having an integrated risk treatment process where all the controls implemented for risk treatment are mapped appropriately to the relevant requirements for each standard. So the statement of applicabilities may still remain separate, but the implementation approach and control usage can be aligned to avoid duplication and improve the efficiency.
Okay, fantastic. Next one I've got, how much of an existing ISO 27001 management system can realistically be reused when implementing 42001?
Okay. As mentioned during the presentation, those clauses that overlap can be easily, in terms of documentation, updated, covering the specific requirements. You don't have to build a new risk management framework from scratch. You don't have to have a separate management review, leadership commitment, internal audit processes, and performance evaluation.
Okay, right. I've got a couple for Dark-Trace. What was it like working with BSI during the certification process?
Yeah, no, thank you. Really good. We have a long-standing relationship with BSI, and we knew when this new standard came out, we wanted to have that seal of approval from a premier certification body. We have seen a few of our partners, a few of our suppliers, they have 42001 with, let's just say, less sort of reputable or less prominent certification providers. We don't believe that's worth the sort of same weighting as BSI. They're really easy to work with, and sort of the whole AI governance program at BSI and their expertise, we could sort of see that they were bringing on a lot of capability, a lot of resource and backing behind that. And for us, that meant we were being assessed appropriately by the right people, not just auditors who do other standards such as 9001 or 27001, who've slightly trained. We wanted someone that has come from that right background. So BSI really offered that expertise, and it was really, really good to work with them.
Okay, a couple more for Dark-Trace. What advice would you give to another AI-enabled technology company considering ISO 42001 certification?
Good question. I think, for us, as Shanice sort of referenced, there's a large element of documentation, but don't get burdened with that. Work out your AI systems, work out your boundaries. If you're a developer, you need to sort of have a certain level of agility and ability to make sure you scale your processes and you allow for that innovation. For us, we've adopted a sort of walled garden approach. So we still allow our development team to work through problem solving, R&D, and then our aims kicks in. And then we have that really rich, strong governance process. So you've really got to sort of tailor it to your business and what you need. For your AI systems, making sure that you have oversight over to where the data is coming from. Have you got data provenance records? Do you know exactly how you're using the data in the business? And then making sure when you're deploying those systems, do you know where they're going to, how they've architectured? It's really important to understand all of that. So, the exercise that I would first recommend is try and get visibility of that and try and really understand your scope. From there, you can set a really clear direction in terms of, okay, this is the direction we want our aims to go in, and this is how we can build it around our other compliance frameworks.
Okay. Next one I got, I think, this will be for BSI. Are there plans to harmonise ISO 42001 with the EU AI Act?
Can go. No, at the moment, no, that is not going to be the case. The true thing is that ISO 42001 is the best insurance policy, as mentioned in the presentation, because the AI regulation gives you what you have to do. However, ISO 42000 it gives you how you do that.
Okay, thank you. And another one for Fran and Vindia. If you already have 27,001, do we need to certify in 42001 a standalone first, or can we integrate 42001 on our 27,001 certificate?
Yeah, I can take this, Andrew. So yeah, you can always integrate. So if you already have 27,001, your first 42,001 audit can be integrated with your 27,001 research, or yeah, we can do a combined audit, but as long as you have your stage 1 for 42,001 done, so the certification audits can be combined.
Okay. I've got one for Darktrace. At the time you're working on your 42001, did you take into consideration UK AI principles, as you only mentioned the EU AI Act?
Yeah, we certainly did. We sort of mentioned the UI Act because we know it's the sort of it's the regulation we're getting asked about more. Frankly, you know, Darktrace, we operate in 110 countries. A lot of AI governance and compliance regulation is sort of being based around the EU Act. We have seen local adoption. So for us, we certainly do make sure that we are looking at that local adoption. Of course, the UK's AI regulation we did consider. We've also had to consider South Korea, India. We've considered a really global view of this, but we've seen a lot of common threads with the EU Act. So that's why we're sort of so focused on that.
Okay, another one just kind of on that thread. How did Darktrace decide which AI systems were included in the ISO 42001 scope?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, you know, obviously as a cybersecurity provider, our systems sort of are AI first. We wanted to make sure that we are sort of delivering a certificate that covers those products. So for us, we made focusing on the product first, and then all the sort of AI systems that live under that. We also then sort of, you know, in this world of agentic workflows and Gen AI, we want to make sure that not just the development systems and systems we give to our clients, but also the systems we use internally and the AI adoption is covered. So that's where our aims also kicks in, allows for that assessment process. So just to recap, we went for our product sort of that centric approach, and then looking at internal AI deployment.
Okay, thank you. Right, one for Fran and Vindia. How should one differentiate in governance between one's own use of AI to achieve efficiencies and embedding AI into products one sells to customers?
Yeah, I can take this, Andrew. So basically, there are separate controls on intended use of AI systems and for the responsible development and provision of AI systems. So if you look at the controls in 42001, there are specific requirements for both when you actually use the AI systems like third-party models, or, you know, for your internal AI governance or internal purposes. And when you actually integrate AI products to sell to the customers, there are different controls for responsible development and the AI cycle that you need to follow for provision of your AI systems, which starts from the deployment to monitoring, validation, till the decommissioning of your AI system. So yeah, there are separate controls which will help you for the implementation of these two things separately.
Okay, I've got a few more left that have come through, but we have got time. So if anyone on the webinar has any more questions, please send them through, as we will have time to get round to them. So the next one, again, this will be for BSI, so for Fran and Vindia. What is BSI certifications? What is BSI certification pricing model for cash-strapped AI startups?
So Andrew, I think probably you can take this question.
Yeah, I suggest the best thing to do with this one is we'll send a feedback form at the end of the webinar, and on that there's a request to chat to somebody from BSI. So what we can do is we can put you in touch with the right person, kind of understand more about your your organisation, what you're looking to achieve, and then kind of take the conversation from there. But sadly, I don't think there's kind of a one-size-fits-all answer to this question, and it would be best to kind of talk on an individual basis. I don't know if you've got anything more to add to that at all, Vindy or Fran, or does that kind of cover what we think is needed there?
Yeah, I think that's good. I agree.
Okay. Right, next one. I've just lost where I was in the list. I've got is today's presentation materials being shared? Yes, we will send a email out usually within 24 to 48 hours afterwards, which will have a download to listen to the recording and also the presentation materials as well. So you will have that as well. We covered the EUI Act one. What else have we got on there? Just looking through kind of one for Darktrace that's come in. What surprised you most during the ISO 42001 certification process?
Oh, good question. I think, it felt like a step up from 27001, not in terms of, control difficulty or how it was to implement. I think it was just sort of going back to, we really had a really strong level of expertise from BSI, and we really felt like we were given a really strong audit, making sure that they covered everything fully. So for us, it was just a new standard. It was, for us, no one had any previous experience of this. There was not many resources out there. So we really relied on BSI to sort of drive that, and sort of they give us the knowledge and expertise. So I think for us, that was the most surprising thing is, there's nothing to lean on before. So 42001 being delivered by BSI really, really helped in that regard.
Okay, that's brilliant. One for Fran and Vindia. ISO 42001 specifically covers the AI systems used and developed, brackets third-party models. But what about usage of AI for general usage and agentic workflow for business as usual?
Yeah, I can take this, Andrew. So agentic workflow, normally, it again depends on how we are using it. So the AI, for the AI ISO 42001, your organization will be, the scope of the AI would be either provision, producer, or user. So generally the usage, and for agentic workflow, it would be categorized as provision, because you are providing the agentic AI workflow into your own platforms. Again, this will be dependent on what kind of discussion we have pre-audit, and then it's again case-to-case basis how you're actually using it, how you're monitoring your agentic workflow, how you're dealing with your prompts. So it's very specific, and this can be discussed, and it all depends on the scope of your AI systems, and what is that you are doing with your agentic AI workflows. So are you just starting from your deployment, or are you actually training your prompts? So yeah, it's very case-to-case specific.
Okay. The next one, I guess this is probably BSI and Darktrace kind of. How is the demand for ISO 42001 in the UK? Is it becoming requested more? And if so, what size of organisation is it suitable for? Shall I pass this across to BSI, and then if Darktrace has anything to add, they can add to the response?
So Andrew, probably you could take this question.
Okay. What we're seeing is there's becoming more demand for 42001, especially as things like the EUI Act evolves, and companies wanted to get themselves kind of ready for it. It's kind of not a mandatory standard, but it is putting kind of companies in the right place. And from our kind of sales perspective, we're seeing kind of all across the board and different industries. So it's quite difficult to state that it's for finance or for manufacturing or cybersecurity or so, because we get kind of requests from it all across the board, and from various kind of companies and ethoses behind it as well. There's kind of a bit of a race to be kind of the first to certify, or the first in various industries. So that's driving it. But I think as time progresses, we will kind of see it kind of moving from kind of almost like a nice to have to more of a license to operate, in the same way that maybe 9001 or 27001 is. So it's kind of an early stage standard, but growing momentum more and more, and is keeping our kind of auditors at BSI very busy at the moment. So moving in the right direction there. I don't know if anyone on the panel's got anything more to add to that at all.
Yeah, just from a Darktrace side, I mean, with our own clients and prospects, we have seen growing demand. I think, as I referenced, when we first certified, it was so new to the market. I think we had to sort of introduce 42001 and contextualize it. Now we really see our clients knowing the value and sort of really expecting it. We've definitely seen that in the UK as well. We've had quite a few of our UK clients be aware of the standard. Again, they're asking around EU AI Act compliance. For us, this is 42001, really helps speak to that. So yeah, we've seen a growing requirement in the UK, and we've seen that sort of globally as well.
Okay, last one I've got in the box that says specifically to Vindia, so I'll put it to her. If my organisation is only having AI general usage, such as Copilot from Microsoft for business as usual, could you give out examples for control exemptions, please?
Yeah, sure, Andrew. So normally in these scenarios, your organization would fall under the scope of only user of AI system. But again, exemption of controls, I cannot really tell you, because it's up to your organizations what controls you would need, and that is completely dependent on what risks you have identified within your organization, and what controls you need for treatment of those risks. So it is completely risk agnostic, and it's very difficult to say what controls can be exempted, because it is very organization specific. So because all the controls in statement of applicability are used to treat your risks that are identified for your business. So it's really organization specific. It doesn't mean that if you're only AI user, you can exclude some controls, or some controls are mandatory. It's completely dependent on your risk treatment options and your risk appetite.
Okay, I said last question, but they keep coming in. I've got one for Darktrace. So regarding 27001 and 42001, has it been useful for government frameworks and compliance?
Definitely, yeah. I think, when I reference the fact that we're looking at global legislation, we operate in, many different countries. A lot of the themes of that regulation and standardization is very much aligned to the principles of 27001 and 42001. Risk management, information security risk management, incident management. On the AI side, it's sort of data provenance, AI system delivery, making sure it's responsible, and sort of considering the human element of our output. So yes, we've seen it be really valuable, and it means that we know going into any sort of new legislation, we've got a leg up.
Okay, just kind of last ones from me, really to our BSI guys. If someone's looking to get started with 42001, what should they be looking at? Is it buying the standard? Is it training? What should they be looking to do?
Could you please repeat, Andrew?
So if someone's kind of looking to get started from 42001 as kind of a complete beginner, what should they be doing?
So it again depends. Yeah, so it again depends on if they have 27001 already, or what regulations they are following. But to start with, it's important to identify the scope of their AI systems. What AI systems do they want to include as part of the certification journey, and to understand where they are standing, like what exactly they are doing with the AI systems. Are they developing it from the scratch, or are they using some third-party LLMs? So basically, the first step would be identifying your scope boundaries. So what are your AI systems? What is your role of your organizations for those AI systems? And then what are your external internal issues, and who are the interested parties? Identifying your scope boundaries and then going forward with that governance would be the important step.
Okay, fantastic. We covered all the questions in the chat, so thank you to our audience for all of the great questions you've asked, and also to our panelists for answering, and also for your great presentations today. I found it extremely helpful, and I hope it's been helpful for the people on the call as well. So kind of as mentioned beforehand, there'll be a quick survey at the end of it, which will just pop up. We really appreciate, kind of your input to this, as it helps us develop webinars which kind of benefit the people joining, which is essentially the reason why we do it. You will get a copy of the slides and a recording. Please look out for an email within about the next 24 to 48 hours. And we've also included a few links on there as well to resources on Force 2001, such as the infographic, which we flashed up, and also kind of the key web pages. If you want to talk to a BSI colleague about Force 2001, there's a opportunity for to talk to one of our BSI colleagues. So please just tick the box there. And I think that's about all I need to cover from a housekeeping point of view. So all I can say is thanks a lot. Just to finish the call, we've got a video to share of when we presented Darktrace with their Force 2001 certificate. So I'll say goodbye, and also just say thanks to Will, to Sinead, to Fran, and to Vindra for their role in the webinar. It's been really great to have you on the call, and yeah, your expertise, and I hope this was valuable for everybody who's joined.
We're here today, a really important occasion. We have come to hand over Darktrace's ISO 42001 certificate. This is the first time that BSI has issued a 42001 certificate to a UK organisation, and the first issuance to an organisation in the cybersecurity sector.
Darktrace is a cybersecurity company. It's crucial for us that our systems are fully trusted by our customers, and so when the ISO 42001 certification arose, we were very keen to add it to our existing certifications.
ISO 42001 is the world's first quality management system standard for AI, and it really allows organisations to address the unique risks and responsibilities relating to AI, and to really build client trust in ethical AI practices.
I'd like to personally thank the team at BSI for their exceptional support, professionalism and expertise throughout the whole certification process. You've been exceptional partners, and we're proud to have achieved this milestone with leading and globally recognised institutions such as BSI. It's great to be part of a global first. We hope that this will be seen as a trailblazer and encourage others to do the same as us and start to get certified, both in cybersecurity and beyond, ensuring that everyone develops AI responsibly.
We really do hope that lots of other organisations will follow with a commitment to responsible AI.